I usually teach a group of people this in an hour, and I was like, okay, 10 minutes, let's do this. So I might fire hose you guys a little bit. All right. Oh, Cody, can I have you pass these handouts out? And
also,
then,
she asked me to give her a 5-minute and 2-minute warning. I didn't.
Yes.
No one else asked me, so if it seems like I'm being rude to her, it's just because we talked about this.
I did practice, and I got 12 minutes, so we'll see how much we do. Okay, and also I'd like to pass around, one on each side of the room. These are natural yeast starters. They're called many different things. This is a mild starter, and this is a San Francisco sourdough starter, so you can smell the difference. So I'll just start. Yeah, I'm gonna. There's 20 different names for it. I will tell you. I will give you all that information and more. I will overload you guys. Okay, so the reason I got started in sourdough or natural yeast bread is because my daughter, my 5-year-old, she had these rashes on her, and it was after eating lots of bread, and I found out she was allergic to gluten, and I didn't want to go gluten-free for my family of 7. So I was like, what can I do? And I Googled some different things, and I found this natural yeast bread. And they said, oh yeah, if you just eat a slice a day, then it will rebalance your gut and have probiotics and prebiotics go into there, and the good bacteria in there, and gluten intolerant people can eat this bread and eat crappy stuff and not have like their defenses go all crazy. And so I tried it. Within 2 weeks, my daughter Aurora, all of her rashes were gone, and they've never come back. I am like trying to tell everyone I can about this, because this is an amazing thing that we have lost natural yeast over the last 100 years. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. I was thinking, like, how are we going to eat and easily digest all of that hard red and hard white wheat that we have in cans in our food storage and rotate it out, because we are like, no, we don't want to deal with this. You know, how do we make this into this? And so I'm going to give you guys some really good ideas. And even if you just use one of these many ideas, you're going to be so much better off. So I looked at different grains, and the one that I use, I just get from Winco. It's hard white wheat. You can use hard red wheat, but my family, that's too wheaty for my family. I also found recently something called Einkorn Wheat. It's like a miracle in itself, because it has 14 chromosomes and regular wheat has 42, and so this einkorn is more favorable for the digestive system, and gluten intolerant people can't eat it. And so if you just use that wheat, einkorn, or just use the natural yeast starter in your bread, either way, you know, even just one of those things is going to really help you out. Einkorn is spelled E-I-N-K-O-R-N. Okay, so so the next thing is, how do you know if your grain is dead or alive? How long has your grain been sitting there in the bag or in the can? And so what you can do is you can sprout your grain, because you don't want to have dead grain to make bread with, you know, for if there's an emergency situation and you really have to only rely on your wheat storage. And so what I've done is I pop open a can and see, you know, if it's still alive by soaking it in water for 6 hours and then rinsing it every 12 hours. And then it should sprout after 2 to 4 days. And if it doesn't, I've even had some sprout after 5 days, but that's kind of, you know, really old. If it doesn't, I would throw it out. It's no good. And but you can keep it if you want, in case, I don't know, whatever, you're really starving. Just bless it. Just pray over it. It'll be all good. I recommend, because this is like the most nutritious thing on earth, is sprouted wheat, sprouted anything really. And so I add this into my bread sometimes. So that's the different types of wheat that you can use. And just a little note on freshly milled flour. I didn't know this. I've only been making bread like with natural yeast for this year, like maybe 5 months ago, and I've learned a ton. There's a ton of information. This is the most surprising to me, that flour, freshly milled flour, so I just milled this from my grinder, and I have a electric grinder at home, and I found this at the DI for just $6. So just pray, and the Lord will provide. And this is shocking. It says flour loses 40% of its vitamin content in the first 24 hours after milling. Then 85 to 95% of its vitamin and nutrition after 2 to 3 more days. So if you grind your wheat, put it in the fridge, it'll last a little bit longer, but try to make it the same day or the day after that you grind it. That's something interesting to think about with all the wheat storage that we have. So I'm going to skip. You can look more into how that happens on a more detailed scale on the handout. Okay, now my favorite part, natural yeast. Okay, so I need my starters, if I can. Okay, so this natural yeast. Okay, so I have 2 different starters here. One I bought a flake from, so you can, and they're super cheap, or you can get them for free. And I'm going to hand out some natural yeast flakes today for anyone who wants some, and you can start your own. And so they have little itty-bitty like pockets of air in here, and for every single pocket of air is a microorganism that is helping break down well, I'll just read it. These people are better at explaining it than I am. Oh, and it's called many different names. So pre-ferment, sourdough starter, wild yeast, that's my favorite because wild yeast, mother dough, there's many different names for these. And so with natural yeast starters, or sourdough, or whatever you want to call it, it's a fermentation process that breaks down 4 gluten-forming proteins. And the reason that so many people with gluten intolerances can enjoy this bread. And you can even make pancakes with just this without adding any extra flour. And to start, severely gluten intolerant people to bring back into balance. And then they can start eating bread like this and this that has only sat with natural yeast for 6 hours. So, man, there's so much to tell you guys. I don't know how I'm going to. Okay, I would like to. What?
5.
Okay, thank you. 5 minutes. Good, I turned the page. Here we go. All right, so what I would like to say is that this is the best book I found on natural yeast. It has the best pictures. It has the best explanation for how to create a natural yeast starter from a flake and from just the air, because natural yeast or wild yeast is all around us. And if you get berries or like grapes and throw them in there, that will have the fermentation process faster as well. Or so I've got so many things coming at me. So these, I bought this sourdough flake from San Francisco, and it was like $1 or so. And then this one a girlfriend gave to me, and it's mild. And so if you taste the difference, this has got sourdough, natural yeast in it, and then this bread, and then this challah bread, which is amazing because it's also Rosh Hashanah today, and so they have challah bread in Jerusalem, is made with the mild. And so you can taste each one of those and see the difference. Okay, real quick, natural yeast breaks down harmful enzymes in grains. It takes the nutrition in grains, vitamins and minerals our bodies crave, and make them easily more digestible. Converts dough into a digestible food source that will not spike your body's defenses. It pre-digests sugars for diabetics, and that's why I love that book over there that you were talking about, diabetics. Breaks down gluten for the intolerant and turns calcium leaching phytic acid into cancer-fighting antioxidants. And that's just a small snapshot. And so there's many more studies on there that you can look at. Okay, so we're going to feed our starter. So we're going to take, let's take this one. And how to feed your starter is if you have a fourth of a cup or a half a cup of starter, then you want to feed it equal parts of water and flour. So if you have half a cup of starter, you want to feed it half a cup of water and heaping half a cup of flour because it's equal parts weight. And so I'm just going to do a fourth of a cup because I have a little bowl right here. And then I'm going to take my flour and my water. And I never really measure anything when I bake. So anyway, and then you'll see that the gluten fibers in there will make it very stringy, very elastic. And that's what you want. So this bread tastes a lot more elastic than most breads.
How often do you want to
So yes, that's a good idea. So I was going to say that if you keep it in the fridge, and I keep both of these in the fridge, you have to feed it twice a week. And you can even go as long as feeding it once a week, but it'll get mad at you and it'll get dark and sour and it'll be like, feed me. So I wouldn't go for that long. But if you don't have a refrigerator, like the pioneers, what did they do? They had to feed it their starters, because they had starters as they came across the plains to make their bread with twice a day. So they would make bread in the morning over fire with cast iron, whatever, and then they would feed their starter, and then they would travel, and then as they would rest right before they would go to sleep and just, I don't know, faint from exhaustion, they would feed their starter again. They would feed it twice a day. They would make bread twice a day. So I don't know. Who knows if that's going to happen? Maybe it will. So let's see. Okay, so how much yeast do you use to make bread with? A good rule of thumb is for every 3 cups of flour, you want to have a fourth of a cup of starter. And so that's different, right, than the regular dried yeast that we use. So just keep that in mind, that you need to use more of this.
So
Because it's
Lisa,
natural.
You're going to put that you fed it.
I fed it,
Are you
yes,
gonna
and
put
so
it
I'm
back
going
in
to
the
show
jar?
you. I don't have an extra jar here, but yes, you want to put it in a wide mouth jar, or these are the best things.
So you don't put it back in that jar.
No.
When you
So
feed
this
it at
is
home, you
when
just
I
put
feed.
it directly
Yes.
into the jar.
Yes, so when you know that this is wanting to be fed in 3 days, it will have that, what is it called? It will have, it's on your sheet, I drew a picture of it. The ethanol acetic acid will form on there. You just pour that off, that's extra sour. If you want it extra sour, you can pour that into your bread. And then you feed it.
Okay.
And that's how you know it wants to be fed, is because it has that byproduct after going throughout the starter and eating all the sugars and the starches for you. Okay, so here we go. So this is really interesting. The only ingredients that are in this bread are natural yeast starter, which is only flour and water. Water, 2 cups of water, and 5 to 6 cups of flour. That is it. There is no dairy. There is no eggs. There is no, oil. But you can add those things if you want. But if you're allergic to those things, there's just literally flour and water. That's what they did. That's what I'm trying to get back to, because obviously my daughter needs it. So I did add in this bread, to let you guys know, some honey and some oil and a little salt, pink Himalayan salt. Shaping the loaf. Okay, so we're going to take this. So I have just mixed, I just fed my starter over here, and then I just imagine that I've taken some starter and I've added 3 cups of flour and some water, and then I let it rise So I put it in my KitchenAid with a dough. Well, this is a Danish dough whisk. So if you don't have a KitchenAid, this is the best thing ever. It looks like it's out of Dr. Seuss, but it seriously works, I'm telling you. And so then I let it sit in a it cannot be metal or plastic because this is active. This is reactive. It will do some bad things if you have it in plastic or metal. So just have it in ceramic or glass for 6 to 12 hours. This is the key. This is the magic. Let it work its magic. Do not bake it before it's ready. So then I let it, so this has been rising all day for, I don't know, about 9 to 12, 9 hours or so. So what I do is I just pull it out, and then, got too much stuff on this table. So then I take my, thanks. You want to spray or butter the pan. And I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me try and move some stuff around. You want to eat that, Cody? Okay, what I forgot to do, so with hard white wheat, with wheat, you want to take water. Instead of flouring your area, you want to take water. That's what it says, and it has worked. I've tried flour, it does not work, so that's kind of interesting. So I just take it and I pat it down, get some of the bubbles out, and then hot dog style, and then just fold it over. I don't know if you guys can see this, because I'm trying to shape it into a form that can fit inside my pan. You can shape it into whatever that you want, a bread bowl, or, and then what you do is you take half of it and you stretch it out. It's very elastic. I love this stuff. And then you fold it over like this. And all these pictures are in the book. I'm telling you, like, YouTube is amazing and that book's amazing. And then you just press it into the pan a little bit. And now with natural yeast, since you had to let it sit for 6 to 12 hours first to get all the natural yeast throughout the dough, now that you have it in your pan, another 2.5 hours. That's what they had to do back then. That's a long time for us, right? Just throw it in there. And I use, to save on stuff, I just use a dedicated shower cap, and I just do my other stuff, So I think that's about it. Let me see. I keep losing my spot here. Okay. So yeah, I only have one more thing to say. So what else can you make with this natural yeast starter that disappeared? You can drop this. You can take this. I love sticking my hands in there and dropping it into a smoothie for added probiotics and good bacteria for your gut. You can drop it into soup to thicken the soup. You can drop it into casserole and mix it up. You can make pizza crust. You can make, I do that all the time, sourdough pizza crust. It's amazing. So that's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say other than please come up and get a flake so you can use it in the future or put it into your 72-hour kit. I think this will last for about a year or two. And yes, so doing the flake is you grab a flake, you break it up, you add a little flour, a little water at first. Where's my book at? So in my book and online, they have all kinds of flow charts for how to feed your starter with a flake. And first you start with 1/4 of a cup and you leave it on your counter. It is a fermentation process. Don't put it in your refrigerator when you're just beginning to grow your baby or it's going to die. And so you need to have just 1/4 of a cup and then add a little more and a little more, and then it's going to grow to 1/2 a cup, and then you're like, okay, it needs to be fed today a couple more times, but it's like to here. So then you have to take half of it out and either throw it away or put it in your soup or whatever. And then, or else it'll overflow, right? If you keep adding a 1/2 a cup here and a 1/2 cup there. So then you keep it down here. and it will double in size. If it doubles in size in 12 hours, there's the flow chart. There's many flow charts. I just kind of listened to it. It's gonna double in size? No, I'm just kidding. There's some truth to that. So when it doubles in size, then it's ready. It's still really sour. I wouldn't bake bread in the first month with your newly started flake, but you can put it in all kinds of other things, and then in a month you can make bread, and it won't be that sour, and your family's going to love it because their guts are going to love it, and I love it. So please, if you have any questions, are there any questions? Any more questions? No. Okay.
So